Hey everybody, today we're going to learn about
the Jewish diaspora.
These are just some of the places that the Jewish people have been kicked out of since 250 AD.
Carthage, Alexandria, Israel, France, Italy, Germany, Hungary, England, Austria, Belgium, Prussia, and the list goes on.
Yeah, I think it was 109.
These are some of the terms we're going to be using throughout this video. Diaspora means the dispersion of the Jews beyond their homeland. Torah are the first 5 books of the Hebrew Bible. Yahweh is the Hebrew word for God, and Judea is referring to Israel and all the land that the Jewish people were promised by God, and so like their empire. Guys, today we're going to learn about exile in the Bible. So, the first instance of exile in the Hebrew Bible is in Genesis, where Adam and Eve, through original sin, are kicked out of Eden by God. Another of the many instances of exile in the Jewish Bible is when good old Abraham is told by Yahweh to go to the promised land. So he has to leave everything that he knew. So that's another kind of instance of diaspora, because then he begins his journey to the Jewish promised land. Okay, the final instance of exile in the Hebrew Bible is with Moses, who was actually born and raised in Egypt, which is technically an exile from Israel or the Jewish promised land, and he was a Hebrew. So then God says, okay, you should probably go free the Hebrews because they're your people, and then take them to the promised land. So he's like, okay, great. So he goes and he frees the Hebrews, and then they all start to travel to the promised land, and then actually the Torah ends with the Jewish people still
in exile.
Yeah, like kind of in exile, not quite at their promised land yet. And then even the book of Deuteronomy ends with the Jewish people being held captive by the Babylonians. And so the reason that we're talking about the Bible is because some of the exiles in Jewish history actually mirror what we find in the Bible when it has to do with the Jewish diaspora. In the beginning,
Well, more like 720 BC.
the Jewish people lived peacefully
Here, in Israel. That is, until the Assyrians invaded.
scattered the Hebrew people, and they were pretty much erased from history. They became known as the 10 Lost Tribes, having to settle all throughout Eastern Europe, and one of these places being Judea.
That is, until 587 BC, when the Babylonians decided to conquer Judea, and once again push out the Jews. This time they were not so politely relocated to what is now modern-day southern Iraq.
It was either that or become a slave for the Assyrians.
Now, these people won't be getting a break anytime soon.
Just 1 year later, the Jewish temple is ruined, starting an entire new wave of Jewish diaspora.
The Babylonians clearly have it out for the entire Jewish population. Not only did they destroy the holy temples,
But they also forced the Jews out of Babylonia entirely, causing many of them to flee to Egypt.
there was a brief turnaround, however, when the king of Persia conquers Babylonia, and in 538 BCE, the Jewish people are allowed back into Israel.
The Jewish people didn't get a break for long, as in 6 AD, Rome started to be the worst and they annexed Judea. Millions of Jews were killed and thousands were enslaved. There was a revolt and the Jews were, wait for it, exiled yet again. At this point, they were settled in many places all throughout Europe. One of these settlements was Spain. As you're probably beginning to understand, the Jewish people don't get to hang out in one spot for too long of a time. Nope, this time, in 1090 AD, the Almoravides move in and force the Jews out of Spain and into England. So now there's a Jewish population in Western Europe. Cool. So the last invasion we'll be talking about is the Crusades. So this was a series of Christian invasions from 1095 to 1291 AD, and it displaced the Jews all over Europe because they just didn't like the Jewish people, and they wanted to convert them to Christianity. Really sad stuff. Yay!
Okay, so, believe it or not, there's a lot of exile. No, I can't do that. I'll start on this side.
I should be.